feature films, the budget for short films is usually significantly lower due to the amateur or independent nature of the producers. Short films, by nature of the screen time and independent producers and distributors, tend to have access to a vastly smaller budget than those of mainstream feature-length films like conglomerates such as Time Warner. Conventionally, due to smaller budgets, short films tend to hire fewer actors, as seen in The Black Hole, The Fly and 220. I both conformed and subverted this convention. The main section of my short film used only 2 actors because of both budget and availability. This indeed helped to enhance the binary oppositions between the protagonist and antagonist. In contrast, my final scene showcases 4 actors. The inclusion of a larger cast, as seen in The Big Day, comparatively defies the unwritten rule. Raindance.org states that a short film can be anything from 15 seconds to 45 minutes in length. Frequently, the plot for a short film can become simplified as a result of this shortened narrative. Although Williams' The Fly has a highly simplistic plot following a man trying to kill a fly in his car, this does not detract from the overall production value. Creative cinematography has become a conventional feature for short films to keep them engaging. Shorter durations and lower budgets require the necessity for enhanced creativity to produce an overall effective outcome. Punish subverts this convention to enable a more professional aesthetic and interesting narrative through the use of complex storyline and dark colour grading. Short films tend not to have a fixed genre but are typically far more loose and abstract with a simplified plot. This often results from the absence of control from larger companies to produce a specific genre and reduce pressure to generate higher income. Punish defies this abstract convention as I elected to produce a clear hybridization of 2 genres, drama and the subgenre psychological thriller. Unconventionally complex short film themes are explored in my storyline, examining social trends, de-individuation through the form of hidden identities, pressures of suicide, and haunting pasts. Psychological thrillers adopt themes associated with connotations of consciousness, the manipulation of death, and the frequent build of suspense and tension. Drama films explore the concept of flashes to the past, the build of tension to climaxes and anticlimaxes and emotional conflicts. My Year 12 opening sequence was of the psychological thriller genre. It gave me familiarity with these conventions and enabled me to produce appropriate tension. The psychotic clown in my AS opening sequence was inspiration for me to develop a thrilling antagonist further. Research into other short films ensured I had understandings of conventions relating to those of my hybridized genres. Analysis of the short film The Black Hole for baseline inspiration examined their use of character portrayal, sound, and colour grading and draws close comparisons to my own production. Black Hole's musical score was inspiration for my own work. Diegetic sounds of their photocopier draws close comparisons to my opening sequence's typewriter prop, where accurate sound effects are audible as opposed to non-diegetic soundtracks. Pending music is initiated in The Black Hole upon the discovery of the abnormal object and the potentially fatal decision the leading protagonist makes. This is mirrored within my own film as the musical score fluctuates according to tension and the high points of action within my storyline. Climactic examples within Punish are the implication that Michael has hit the woman with the car, Michael discovering the parcel, and the suggestion of suicide. The introduction of sinister music provides more tension in line with the psychological thriller genre convention. Punish defies Todorov's narrative theory. Unlike The Black Hole, my short film initiates with unease, comparable to the distribution of the equilibrium within Todorov's theory. Alongside this, I have adopted a partial linear and episodic narrative structure. The opening sequence Enigma could equally be placed as a feature chapter anywhere within Punish. Despite this, the remaining action does follow a conventional linear narrative structure. The research of cinematographic shots was particularly useful. The Black Hole introduced highly effective fear-evoking shots that implied a deeper meaning of sinister contrast. Discovery of the sinister prop in both cases include a medium long shot where the object is placed in the foreground with a confused and vulnerable protagonist in the background. Successful character exploration was enabled from the composition of the shot by allowing the sinister antagonist to dominate its framing. Black Hole's colour correction and grading was highly inspirational. Sinister connotations were retrieved through the use of low-key lighting, a conventional feature for the psychological thriller genre. Despite my use of high-key artificial lighting for filming, sinister implications and undertones were achieved through the use of editing the hues, shadows, midtones, and highlights to enable a dark aesthetic quality. The leading protagonists from The Black Hole and Punish initially appear as dedicated workers, with Sampsons as protagonists working after hours and Michael Stevens night studying for university. With regard to Prop's character type theory, both protagonists are representative of a false hero outset, as they are both ultimately flawed. Black Hole's character attempts to steal company money and Michael causes a car crash due to his mobile phone intrigue. Evan, despite being a feature film, was inspirational. Bast's Enigma code theory is exhibited within the introduction of a sinister character adopting a hidden identity in the opening sequence. Fast-paced visuals and musical score successfully signify the psychological thriller genre. Experimenting with different props and soundtracks, I adapted Fincher's opening sequence for Seven. Similar cinematographic shot types and angles appear in both Seven and Punish. Frequent close-ups and extreme close-ups were used in both films to evoke an intrusive undertone. Fast-paced narrative sequences are typically associated with the psychological thriller genre. Fast pace of Seven inspired the quick cutting of the shots within Punish, making it genre conventional. However, my desire to experiment with focus pulls and depths of fields unconventionally created longer durations of certain shots. Short film poster is conventional compared to many existing motion media posters. The Ratter poster became baseline inspiration. The concept of a hooded antagonist composed through a half-frame shot is fearfully evoking for Punish's poster. This is enforced by Enigma code theory due to the costume and camera composition concealing the identity of the antagonist. The Before I Go to Sleep poster uses the rule of thirds framing to split the characters, but evokes, in my opinion, far less enigma than I achieved through my half-framing. The film poster convention I deliberately deliberately subverted was the background colour. During research, the vast majority of film posters had a dark colour scheme and low-key lit background, resulting from the convention of the darkness associated with the psychological thriller genre. I produced two almost identical film posters except for the background colour. Target audiences voted unanimously for the lighter background as being more reflective of the psychological thriller and drama genres, supported my belief that the lighter background colour enables an implication of polar oppositions, signifies the dark appearance of the antagonist, reflecting the sinister personality in which contrasts with the adjacent light background. This background could suggest the innocence of his victims as a result of the lighter background connoting purity, innocence and cleanliness. With regard to Strauss's binary opposition theory, my film poster includes a sinister undertone through its portrayal of binary opposition. Aronofsky's feature film Black Swan uses a similar white background for the poster's main image, perhaps more reflective of both of my hybridized genres. Film review is conventional in both its layout and tone at which it's been written. My review layout conforms to Empire's convention of lacing reviews with comedy or informal adjectives such as "is that a true or twisted human figure?" This feature I subtly replicated with a progressively eerie, strained to danger undertone. Intercontextuality by way of film comparisons is frequently used within Empire's articles for their film fanatic target audiences and mimicked in my review. Comes at Night review features 6 other films including 10 Cloverfield Lane, The Witch and Panic in Year Zero, including films in my review with sinister plots and themes such as The Box or a similar antagonist adopted within Halloween was imperative.